diverse settimane che non si fa altro che parlare di questi aumenti del costo della vita, delle bollette, ma soprattutto non solo per le famiglie, ma anche per molti business. Allora, noi abbiamo già fatto una puntata, non so se vi ricordate, la scorsa settimana con il trade buddy della UK Hospitality Sector, era Tony Sophocles che ci ha raccontato un po' quello che stanno passando le aziende, ma oggi lo facciamo proprio con il CEO di una catena di ristoranti italiani a Londra, Andrew Mcleod. Qui su London One, Andrew, tax inflation is meant to rise in the next few months. Can you please tell us what are the main challenges that the restaurants are going to face during this winter?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been quite clear so far about the energy crisis and what's happening with that. I think maybe some things that a lot of people are not aware of is the food inflation. Food inflation in the last 12 months in the UK is running at about 15 to 20%, depending on what type of a business you are, whether you order a lot of chicken or, like us, order a lot of semolina. Depending on that, it's running between 15 and 20%. Recruitment costs and wages are spiraling, and as we mentioned, energy costs. And I think in general, what all of this does together is it creates instability both for teams, for people, and also for the consumers. And so not only are we looking at potentially trade starting to stagnate a bit in the restaurant industry in the UK, but you're also looking at rising costs, and it's a combination of slowing growth together with rising costs, which is what is to look forward to, I should say.
What about the energy bills instead?
With us, let's say in one of our restaurants, the energy bills have gone up 3 times, and so from around, I believe it was 1.5K a month, now we're at about 5 to 6K a month. So that's about 60,000 a year from previously about 18,000 a year, and that's just at one of the restaurants. So in general, as we go through the winter, and people have to renew their contracts, the question is always when you renew your contract, because we're in fixed terms for 1, 2, 3 years, depending on which restaurant it is. And for example, we just had to renew one of them a few months ago, which is why it completely skyrocketed up.
And, you know, many citizens are also suggesting to the government to nationalize the energy companies. Do you think it could be helpful also for companies and for restaurants?
I mean, personally, I prefer not to get too involved in the politics side. I think nationalization, privatization is a completely different issue or problem. But I think there definitely should be something where, because they have been making an abnormally high amount of profit, that there should be some sort of a something that the government does in order to make it a bit more fair, because they've been making an abnormally large amount of profit due to political decisions of the government of the UK. So yeah, I think it's fair that some of that is somehow redistributed. How it's done, whether it's, like you said, nationalization,
yes,
taking taxes off these companies, whatever it is, I think that's a government decision, and that's why we elect MPs and politicians in order to find the best solution for those things.
You know, we've heard also different witnesses of venues declaring they are at risk of closure during this winter. I hope this is not your case, but do you think you've received more support from the government during pandemic rather than now?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, during the pandemic, we did receive a lot of support, and now there's practically no support, whether it's business rates reforms, like you said, whether it's energy caps, price caps, or a reduction in VAT, or whatever it is. There hasn't been anything yet, but I think we're all hoping that in September, when finally there is a leader who is elected,
yes,
in the Conservative Party, that they will get on to hopefully bringing some measures in that help small, medium businesses, basically.
But let's focus about also the solutions, because there must be a solution. What could be a solution when the Prime Minister will be elected?
Yes, sure. I mean, happy to discuss what potentially could be, or what I personally think could work. But as I mentioned, something like a one-off tax on all the big energy companies, which is then redistributed to help first and foremost households, and especially low-income households, and then potentially also small businesses after that. So like they were calling it a one-off windfall tax. Another potential solution is anytime you go into a period of, let's say, coming up to a recession or slowing growth with increasing costs, another common solution in the past that has been used is reducing the VAT rate, just like they did during the pandemic. So just to explain to your viewers what that means, let's say when you buy a bowl of pasta for, let's say, £10 in our restaurant, from that, 20% goes direct to the government, basically. And if they were to reduce, let's say, that from 20% to 10%, then from that £10, just £1 goes to the government. And that's what they did in the pandemic as a way to indirectly let businesses keep a bit more money when the trade was a lot lower. And so, yeah, I think that is definitely something that they will be talking about and trying to trying to look at. And I'd say the third thing, which is extremely important to look at, is easing the visa situation.
Right.
Because as we've started seeing, and obviously we've known it for years and years and years, but I think as the general public has started seeing, hospitality is a very skilled profession. Previously, the UK government were always saying it's not skilled, but as we can see now through all the staff shortages across the industry, that it is a very skilled profession, and you cannot just take anybody to become a good chef. Of course, we can take people and train people, but you do require good skills, same as being a restaurant manager. Being a restaurant manager is like managing your own business, if that makes sense. You manage the people, the food, the preparation, the operations, the maintenance. You're managing, and that. Unfortunately, I mean, I like to say that is very skilled profession. You know that it's not easy to do that. You need to be very intelligent. You need experience, and I think the government so far, over the last few years since Brexit has happened, they still have not recognised that this is a highly skilled profession, and they should be easing the visas in order to make it easier to bring these people in from whether it's Italy or France or other places in Europe around the world.
So I want to understand with you. So do you think that Brexit causes these shortages in the sector, or any other reasons? Because what we experience with our listeners, Italian listeners living in London, they are saying, no, we don't want to work in the London restaurants because the conditions are quite critical, crazy hours, and the salary is also very low. So can you please
I think
explain
it's
to
a very
us?
good question. I think it's a very good question. I don't think anybody really can say exactly what the answer is, but from my perspective, there were a number of factors. Number one, yes, historically, the majority of restaurants treat people very badly. In general, we found that at our restaurants, people stay for quite a long time. They like to work with us. And so we haven't maybe had the same experiences as other places. And most of the people who come to us come from places where they say they were treated badly, and then when they're with us, they tend to prefer it with us. In terms of going back to your question as to what was sort of the cause or the issues, I think for sure Brexit was part of it, because you had a non-stop immigration of people who came to work to the UK, and now that's stopped. So that's of course going to be a big factor of it. But then if you compare the UK to the US, they didn't have Brexit, but their crisis with staff shortages is even bigger than in the UK. So to me, that means that yes, Brexit is a part of it, but there are other factors here that are happening. And I think some of the biggest factors are in the bigger picture is that essentially income inequality has become bigger and bigger and bigger.
Right.
And essentially inflation has started to go up and up and up. And that essentially means that over the last 3 decades, people have been earning less and less and less, and now prices are going up and up and up. So there comes to a stage where people who are working will essentially say, well, I work here because I want to earn some money, save some money, send it home. but now prices, rents have gone up, food has gone up, energy has gone up, everything's gone up. On the same money that they were getting 1 year ago or 2 or 3 years ago, they just can't make it work anymore. And so that's why we see what's happening now is that
Right.
there's a shortage of people. Some people in some restaurants are being forced to work too long
Yes.
hours. And so, yes, unfortunately, but for me, one of the root causes in the UK potentially was, as well as Brexit, was the furlough scheme, because the furlough scheme was a great scheme during the pandemic to support both factories, restaurants, and other
Yes.
organizations.
And in fact, before ending our conversation, Andrew, I would like to understand also this point of view. I mean, in order to overcome this economic crisis, do you believe it's better to cut taxes or even receiving financial support from the government?
Do you mean for us specifically, or do you mean
For the UK hospitality in particular?
I mean, I think probably what's going to be needed is a combination of measures. Potentially, let's say, putting VAT from 20 to 17.5 or 20 to 15, plus making the visas more accessible, and then also putting a price cap on energy. I think if you do those three things, then you'll potentially have a tough environment, but it will definitely be easier to navigate.
Right. Thank you very much, Andrew, for being with us tonight. And of course, as soon as we have more updates regarding the UK hospitality, you'll be very welcome on London One Radio. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rosita. Nice speaking. Bye-bye.